Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Bill, and this is our next episode of Where Spirit Meets Science. Okay, today's topic is living with expectancy and embracing the joy of divine unfoldment. So again, this is another excerpt from my upcoming book, Quantum Grace: Contemplations for the Spiritual Journey. But again, we're going to talk about this expectancy versus expectations, two different things. We'll get into that. But what I'd like to do is start off with a quote from Deepak Chopra, which kind of sets the tone for what we'll discuss today. So he says, according to Vedanta, and by the way, Vedanta is one of the six orthodox philosophies as part of Hinduism. But anyway, he says, according to Vedanta, there are only two symptoms of enlightenment, just two indications that a transformation is taking place within you toward a higher consciousness. The first symptom is that you stop worrying. Things don't bother you anymore. You become lighthearted and full of joy. The second symptom is that you encounter more and more meaningful coincidences in your life, more and more synchronicities. And this accelerates to the point where you actually experience the miraculous. So that's a fantastic quote by Deepak, and something that definitely resonates with me, and certainly I've experienced in my own life many times. I think this is part of your spiritual journey, your spiritual path. When you're younger, you're kind of starting out. You're really not that experienced in the ways of the world and how to move through it and understanding all these sorts of things. But if you're watching this, you're at a place in your life where you want to have a better experience, and things just don't resonate with you like they used to when you're younger. I can certainly speak to that as well. But Deepak sets the stage for this philosophy, and even though that comes from Hindu philosophy, it's universal in terms of not a practice, but a universal law of intelligence that exists. Okay, so anyway, that's going to set our tone for that. But first, before we dig into that topic, let's do our guided meditation. So what I'd like you to do right now is to take a deep breath and settle into a comfortable space wherever you are right now, and we will get started with that. Settle into where we're sitting comfortably. I'm going to take 3 deep breaths through the mouth and exhale out through the nose. Breathe in and breathe out. And as we continue to breathe in and out, we want to put our focus today on maybe an expectation you have of something that's unfolding or hasn't unfolded as you planned. And we're going to focus on that and release any attachment we have to this expectation. And then we're going to move into the space of feeling the joy of expectancy in our hearts. So let's breathe in again and breathe out. Continue to breathe in and breathe out. Let the thoughts and worries of the day release from your conscious thought as clouds passing by in the sky. And as you're breathing in, breathing out, maybe there is something that has happened in your life, or something you expected to go a certain way and it didn't go that way, and it was very upsetting to you. Whatever that is, we're going to take that and transform that into something of being expected. that leads us to some unknown place, some divine guidance. Because the universe is always working towards your good. And as we're breathing into the energy of whatever this is, we then take that and release that into the universe as we exhale. We don't give it any more thought. All the feelings we had with that were attached to it, we release those as we're breathing in and breathing out. Breathe in, breathe out. Release those attachments. Start to feel the joy and energy of a different experience. Feel joy and something amazing happening in your life. If it didn't happen the way you expected, it's because you've put too much attachment to it. That's your ego talking. Let go of the ego's control, of trying to control the outcome. The beauty and the divine experience of releasing that. And as Deepak says, we don't worry. We let go of that. We have no worry. We give it no more thought. We know that it is being divinely guided for us to the outcome that serves our greater good. For we do not always see what the divine has in store for us. When we're too busy with the days and activities and attaching to certain outcomes, we miss the divine experience of what's unfolding. So breathe in and release that energy of attachment, for it no longer serves you. Continue to breathe in and breathe out. Feel that powerful energy of the divine flow through you now. Feel the excitement of expectant outcomes that serve your higher purpose. Breathe in and breathe out. Feel that energy flow through you and as you. Feel the energy of all that is, that joy, of something exciting and amazing that is unfolding for you now. I can feel it. I feel that energy unfolding for you as it does for me. Breathe in and breathe out. bring our awareness back to where we are, to this moment. And slowly, when we're ready, we can begin to open our eyes and feel that presence. Very well. I hope that felt very good for you. I could feel the energy of that moving through. So whatever it was that you expected to happen a certain way and it didn't happen, and I'm so disappointed with that, I hope that you were able to release that. I'll share some exercises for you so you can continue to work on this after our discussion today. But let's define what expectancy is versus expectations. They sound like the same thing, right? So it comes from the same etymology. But there's a huge difference between expecting and setting expectations or expectation. So let's define that. So what is expectant? Expectant is defined as, quote, having or showing an excited feeling that something is about to happen, especially something pleasant and interesting, end quote. And I think that's from Webster's dictionary, okay? Now, expectations is a, quote, a strong belief that something will happen or be the case in the future, end quote. So that's more attaching to a certain outcome, obviously. And even though the two words seem very similar, and are derived from the same etymology, as I said, we get them confused thinking they are the same when energetically they are not. So I talk about this all the time with people because I mean, I've done this in my own life, I'm sure you have, where you expected something to happen a certain way and you know that you were setting expectations because the result may not have been favorable or what you desired. And when that happened, it hurt you. You felt that. You felt really bad. You feel disappointed. You can't understand why it didn't happen. And if you have that kind of reaction, then for sure you're not in a state of being expectant. You're in the state of setting expectations. And so we want to try and not do that so much because we're limiting a much better outcome for ourselves and our path and what we want to do. So I can give you a really good example, and I'm sure you've had this, you can probably relate to this on some level. Throughout my life, there's been an area of my life, and that, when you're on the job search looking for a new job, right? We have a tendency to set expectations around that. Everything goes great, the interviews go great, and it looks like amazing, like for sure it's going to happen. Well, right then when we say that for sure it's going to happen, we've already put an expectation on that, and we set that. But what we're doing is setting ourselves up for failure instead of trusting in the universe that is going to bring us the right job or the thing that the work that fits with our energetic match of who we are. And sometimes we don't have any idea why it happens when something doesn't happen the way we expect. So it's not our job to try and figure that out. Okay? So job searching is a great example of that. And it's probably why I've lived in traveled the world and been to multiple states that I've lived in more than once, even from coast to coast in the U.S., because I kind of went with the flow of where my career took me. And it's not the normal. I would say I don't even want to call it normal, but some people, what they attach to setting an expectation of normal is, well, you go to work for a company and you work there 20, 30 years and live in the same place and all that. Well, that's not really living a life of being expectant or, unfolding that way. Now, it doesn't mean that that job isn't the right position for you and it is fulfilling and all that. And it could very well be. But again, goes through many types of experiences in our life where we have these sorts of things happen. Okay. Now, so what's really the difference here? Okay. And again, we talked a little bit about this in the definitions, but as a practical application in your life, I would encourage you to reflect on whether you're setting rigid expectations around a particular outcome. And then shift your energy. You can do this through a meditation and shift your energy to a consciousness of asking yourself, okay, what can I do to shift my mindset to be more expectant? So, example, I remember I was applying for 6 different companies one time, and I had interviewed with all of them, and I could have easily attached my expectations. I could see myself doing all of them and doing them well. Based on my background and experience in my career, I would have been exciting to do any one of them. But I didn't settle on which one I wanted or saying, okay, it's this one, this has to happen or whatever. I turn that over to the universe. I turn that over to the divine and say that I'll be guided to the right position for that. And quite often when you do that, there's a part of you that thinks, okay, it's probably going to be that, and then it doesn't end up happening. But the difference is we don't end up getting upset about that. And I know this is difficult to do because I've been there myself, where you start feeling like, oh man, why could I do that? So no matter what whatever the experience is, or whatever it is that you're going through, that's something happening in your life, try not to give it too much thought in terms of an outcome. And, I know there's a fine line here of you're able to manifest and take inspired action, whatever. Inspired action is important. We talked about this in an earlier episode. So when you do get that message, and that's only because you're open to receiving that, where you've kind of released any of these expectations, then you get the inspired action that says, you know what, something tells me I need to follow up with this person and make contact. And by the way, it could be something that's not going to happen immediately. It could be something down the road, but you plant the seeds for that. And that's why I've been very successful in my career of building numerous business relationships that I've had for more than 20 years, a lot of them. And it's because of, not setting any expectation that I'm supposed to do something specifically with that person or whatever, right? So living with expectancy, okay? So again, what's the difference? The difference is in how we show up in the world and who is in the driver's seat. So our spirit, expectant, and our ego, expectations, are 2 different things. When we're in the mode of setting expectations, we are firmly attaching our energy to a definite outcome which we believe, quote, will happen without fault. But quite often those expectations fall very short, setting us up for disappointment, despair, and confusion. So let's evaluate whether we are truly embracing the consciousness of being expectant versus setting expectations for particular outcomes. And we'll know this by how we are emotionally reacting to events in our life as they unfold. This is what I was speaking about. We need to take a step back and let the event unfold the way it's supposed to. And this takes practice, okay? This is part of developing our spiritual practice. It takes practice to shift our consciousness and way of thinking, our mindset, because it has not been the way we've operated in the past. I mean, inherently our ego operates in a certain way, and I call it our ego because you don't know any different when you're 20 years old or something. Why is it that older people are more wiser or enlightened, it seems? That's because they have had a lot of disappointments and experiences along the way. Of course, it doesn't really matter what your age is. It just matters in terms of how you're moving through your life and shifting your mindset. Now, what is you have to develop this practice so you can allow the divine to unfold in your life. Okay? It is a part of your spiritual practice. And it's something that you're going to do on a daily basis. Okay? I'm still doing that today with things that are going on in my life. Taking a pause in a moment to meditate and shift my consciousness, my mindset to that of being in joy and expectant and being grateful for the things that I have right now, rather than focusing on something that I think is supposed to happen that way. And this is what you have to do as well. We don't have to know the how or the why. We think we do. I mean, we think we can control everything in our lives, and the reality is, no, we're not very good multitaskers. And in fact, speaking from a scientist point of view, and the research that's been done on that, people say, I can multitask and do multiple things at once. Actually, this is a fallacy. Your brain can only process one thing at a time, actually, the way it works. So, when somebody thinks they're multitasking, they're only diminishing beautiful outcomes from all the things they're trying to do. So keep your focus on one thing at a time and accomplish that. And of course, prioritize or whatever. This is just how we move through our life. But again, we need to move into this place of letting go of the need to control the how or the why and allowing the divine to flow through our lives. Okay? But as we move into this role of joy like this, then we're in synchronicity with the divine, okay? And we move into the state of being expectant. Then the whole world and the very universe we exist miraculously unfolds in ways we never imagined. I mean, think back for a moment, miraculous things that did happen in your life. And maybe there was a point when, either by choice or by accident, that you were expected and you let go of all outcome. Then you will recognize that it had an amazing outcome. And if you contemplate on that and think about that for a moment, you have to wonder sometimes, how is that amazing? If I hadn't have done this phone call, or I didn't follow up and do this, or I didn't do this or that, okay, in ways that you never imagined, then that outcome would not have happened. That's moving into that state of being expectant. It's because we have a knowing, okay, and as we develop our spiritual practice, that knowing becomes more profound in our practice, and we know something wonderful is happening. We don't have to know the how and why. Actually, let go of the worry. It's less stressful. Something beautiful is always manifesting. And then we can see the vision of what we expect, and then we let go of the need to control the outcome. Again, we do not need to know the how or the why, and we have a deep understanding of this as it unfolds in our life. Okay? So the role of this moving to this place of joy and synchronicity, again, is part of your spiritual practice. And the one described from the quote that we just talked about, from the teachings of Vedanta, it's a way of life, like we talked about before. It's a way of life. Okay? So I have many stories in my life, or examples, I'd say, that led to miraculous unfoldings. Okay? And whether it was a new job or new relationship or new business partner or whatever, and whether it's family, friends, or whatever, I think there's that saying that, you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family. Sometimes you're stuck with family that make things difficult, and you have certain expectations. In fact, other family members probably have certain expectations of you because they grew up with you, so they don't necessarily see, especially if you're on a spiritual path, by the way, and growing and evolving spiritually and developing a spiritual practice. There may be others in your family that don't do that, And they're going to look at you and think you're crazy. Okay? I'm speaking from real life experience. Okay? But everybody is on their own journey, their own path. So whatever is coming up for you in those relationships, those types of relationships, makes it more challenging because there's such an attachment there, because it's family, right? But you have to approach that as you do in anything in your life, and not setting expectations of certain outcomes. You may expect a certain family member to behave a certain way, and they're never going to change. Okay, not unless they're on a path of bettering themselves as well. Now, we all experience this, I'm quite sure. It's part of life. It's part of the spiritual being having the human experience. And now you can be the human being having the human experience, and it'd be very, very tough and very challenging and painful even in some cases. Full of disappointment, confusion. This is why developing a spiritual practice, this is why developing and connecting with ourselves within, that we're able to move into that space and that connection. Because when you can get into that space and as part of your spiritual practice, then you feel that power outside of you that flows through you that's so much more than what you can see. This is a powerful, powerful thing. And it creates amazing, miraculous things in your life because you've allowed them to happen by moving into a mindset, shifting it from expectations to being expectant. So let's talk about some spiritual practice exercises or practical things you can do to move you through whatever difficulties you might be having right now. And the first is what we've talked about before, and this is in my book. Each of the inspirational messages in Quantum Grace has a spiritual practice with an affirmation, a meditation, and some guidance on what to do there. So, in this case, affirmations are powerful. And so, if we talk about the I am statement, all right, and this goes back originally to the Bible where Moses in the burning bush and God speaks back to Moses, at least that's the way it's written in the Bible, and says, I am that I am, which doesn't make any sense on the surface when you read those words. But when we put a label on that, what he's basically telling Moses is I am, meaning I am everything. There's no name here. Once you put a name on something, a label, whatever, God, universal intelligence, whatever you want to call it, that exists in all things, we already devalue that. So in an I am affirmation, I am that, meaning I am that, whatever it is we're focusing our energy on, in this case, expecting, then you are that. This is the essence of who you are. So, you can do this by writing it down and journaling as part of your routine and saying, I am that, expectant. So when God said, I am that, I am, he was basically telling Moses, I am that, I am, I am. I know it sounds confusing, but meaning I am everything. Well, we're attaching energy to a certain affirmation in this case. So in this practice, focus on something that maybe it had a poor outcome, or maybe there's something happening right now, like I said, that's you don't know how it's going to unfold. Don't give it any thought in terms of setting expectations, thinking it's going to happen a certain way. Instead, turn it over to the universe and see presence of yourself living a life of joy and synchronicity and miracles in your life. And again, we can do a meditation as part of this exercise. Okay, we can do a meditation with this, and as we're doing that, we want to move our thoughts to that mindset of being expectant. And then whatever is not serving us, whatever that energy is attached to that expectation, we want to release that. We don't want to give it any more thought. Because if we do too much of that, then we're restricting something even more beautiful to happen for you and manifest in your life, right? So, and timing is everything. And quite often, divine timing is not ego timing, okay? And that is meaning you're not, you think it should happen in this time frame, and the divine has some other idea of what that is for you. For many reasons, in ways that we can't even fathom or actually comprehend, to be clear. That's the beauty of that. That's the power of that. You have an amazing connection with that energy as you raise your vibrational energy through your spiritual practice and move into that state of being expectant. Miraculous things are going to happen in your life. There's no question about that. So let's recap for a moment. When we simply move into the state of allowing, we are present for the divine to move through us and as us, to reveal the wonders we feel innately within us. It is in these moments we find ourselves living a life of joy, and we are in a place of being expectant. So let's think again about the difference between being expectant and setting expectations. Again, it's a subtle distinction, but energetically it's vastly different. And then let's work through our practice of living with expectancy, because this opens the door, door, whatever it is. It opens, whatever that is, to joy, miracles, and synchronicities in your life. And then there is a power of releasing control. Don't try to control everything. There's a power of releasing that control and trusting in the divine, trusting in that universal intelligence. Now, that doesn't mean that there's some universal intelligence, somebody up there saying, okay, so-and-so needs to do this, not this. No, it's not like that. It's not what I mean. Okay? It's trusting in the divine that's already a part of you, of what is your path, and trusting in that to come through you and as you and unfold within you. Okay? So I want to encourage you to actively practice these things we've talked about today and shift in your mindset. Again, this takes practice. It can take some time. Sometimes it depends how stubborn you are in terms of release and control. And let's change. But take some comfort in the fact that you have the ability to shift your mindset here from a place of being expecting things to happen a certain way to being expectant and remain open. Okay? Because you have no idea where it's going to take you. So again, thank you for joining me today. Focus on your journey and live with expectancy. Embrace joy and allow the divine to unfold in your life. If you've enjoyed today, please visit my website at williamdavidclark.com. And again, you can subscribe to the email list there. The podcast is posted there, as well as on the YouTube channel and Spotify and numerous other platforms that it distributes to. Next week, I want to tell you we're going to have a special episode of Where Spirit Meets Science. I am going to have a guest. So the topic is religion versus spirituality and bridging ceremonial practices and universal truths. And my special guest is Tonatio Mendez from Ceremonias Nativas. I invite you to visit the website at www.ceremoniasnativas.com. And I'll put this in the posting when I put out this episode, the web link, so that you can go to that. But it's going to be a very cool discussion with it. And I know Tonatiuh quite well because it's my wife's cousin. So my wife's Mexican and Tony's here in Mexico. So anyway, it's going to be pretty amazing. And we also have a special connection with Tony because he actually did the native ceremony for my wife and I some years ago. So again, ceremoniousnativas.com. Go visit that. You can read up about Tony. And then we're going to dig into it and do a deep dive on this next Sunday. So with that, I will leave you that and go through the rest of your day and have a wonderful week. And we'll see you on the next episode. Until then, with love and gratitude, I'm Dr. Bell.